Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Tom Tobin, president of the club, and we're thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30. Come out and join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we're having on our local community and the world, visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary connects the world.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests.
Good morning, Ron.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Liz Ramsey.
Good morning, Rotarians. How are you? Everybody fine? Toasty warm? Okay, let's pray. Our awesome, almighty, powerful Father, we gather here today to praise your goodness and thank you for our Savior Christ and Holy Spirit and Comforter. We especially want to ask you to care for our president and the present conflicts of government. Also, thank you for pouring your blessings on our group here and putting a hedge of protection over everyone here. In your name, Jesus, amen.
And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Bill Benoit.
I might move our thing here so
Yeah,
people
that's a good
can
idea.
see the flag. Uh-oh, I'm gonna break something for sure. There we go.
There we go. Good idea. Oh, we gotta get the eagle straight here too. Oh, we need a microphone for this. My mother says we need a microphone for this. She watches on TV.
Mom says to do something, you do it. I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Bill. And lead us in song, Chris Barker.
All right, I believe this morning we are going to be singing God Bless America, because, you know, we can always use a lot of blessings with all that's going on in our world. I think we all know the lyrics. I mean, James, you're really good about finding everything. So if everyone would, let's see.
So God bless America.
God Bless America. There we go, on the bottom. All right, so Rotarians and guests, if you would please join me. Let's sing a wonderful rendition of God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
And also to introduce our guests.
Kind of liking this microphone. I can walk. Okay, so if you please join me in welcoming our guests, and if they could please stand when I call their name so we can give them the warm Rotary welcome. We have Andrew Grover. He's visiting us from the Akron Club, and I believe he'll have a little to tell us later. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. We have Barb McAdoo. She is a guest of both Mr. Zapatowski and Mimi Becker. Thank you for joining us. And then my own guest, Mr. Jeff Shoup. Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, and I saw someone else walk in. I'm so sorry, Genevieve. Thank you so much for joining us today, a former member who's taking a trip to Harvard to go work there. Yale. Oh, my gosh. I did that on purpose. Okay, from Yale, thank you. Oh, this is her fourth meeting.
Don't introduce him.
After three?
And now our president, Tom Tobin.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Good morning, Rotarians. Okay, let's see. First of all, this morning, I would like to ask Andrew Grover to step back up again and tell us a little. Andrew's from the Akron Rotary Club, and he wants to tell us a little bit about the Chili Open and what the purpose of it is as well. So, Andrew, please.
Thank you. What an awesome club. Wow, I've traveled around to a lot of the clubs over the years. This is very special. So everything you do with the gala and just what a remarkable morning. Thanks for having me. I'm sure you guys are all aware, but if not, we have our Chili Open. It's the day before Groundhog's Day at Hale Farm. It's a festive day with 5 made-up golf courses, chili, beer, T-shirts, door prizes, silent auction. It's a really fun event. 100% of the proceeds benefit our Akron Rotary Camp for children with special needs. It's our 30th year, so we're attempting to raise a good chunk of change. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to come here and tell you about it. I have raffle tickets. They're $20. And the cool thing about them is you could win a car, you could win an HD TV, or an experience with Fox Sports behind the scenes at the Indians. And with that said, the ticket is good for $10 off a Bravo entree by Summit Mall if you buy 2 entrees, so there is something that you can get if you don't win. So if you guys are interested in a ticket, I'll be here after the meeting. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning, and what an amazing club. Thanks for having me. So this year, so the question was, how much do we raise at the Chili Open? So our Akron Rotary Camp is a real special place. No children with special need is turned away. Have any of you ever been to the camp before or heard of it? Okay, and so we really have to raise a lot of money because of the fact that no kids. So this year, for our 30th year, we're trying to raise $300 grand. Yeah, I'm just a small little cog in the wheel. I'm just a passionate guy that cares about it. So yeah, but thank you.
Andrew is passionate about it, and by the way, the camp is awesome. It has been renovated. I think they built some new buildings as well. It is a beautiful facility, and they're doing wonderful work there, and you should be very proud of. Now, Andrew used to be a member of the Cleveland Club as well, where we knew Bill Libby there, and he was just reminiscing back on when the Cleveland Club used to sing in the morning, and he got a real kick out of the fact that we're a singing club. So. That's pretty cool. All right, if I could ask Rich Warfield to step on up. He wants to make us aware of an nonprofit educational opportunity in our community, and we'll give him a minute here.
Thank you, Tom. Sure. Andy, this may not apply to you because it has education in it. And by the way, I will be heading to Florida to golf in the warm weather with a whole bunch of retirees. I'm sorry? Well, I'm not golfing today. I'm golfing tomorrow. All right. Don't be a party pooper. All right. I'm canceling my trip. January 28th through February 18th, there's 4 consecutive Tuesdays of which SAG Community Organization, a nonprofit organization here in Hudson, offers classes that people might want to attend and have a little bit of time on their hands. I think the classes go from 10 a.m. to 3:30. And all you have to do is make a check payable sage. If you want to listen to some of these speakers, it's a 1-month class for each one of these topics. So I will pass this out at the separate tables. And if you want to participate, great. If you don't, I understand. But I said I would present these to you. And by the way, the Akron Rotary Club does a great job. A lot of us know Jimmy Redmond, and he's constantly pushing it for us. And I've played, I think, 4 of the last 5 years, and it is a great time. So thank you for coming and promoting it. I think $300,000 would be a record if you raise it, and we wish you the best of luck.
And Rich, you're going to make it 5 out of 6 times this year, right? Maybe. He's a little intimidated by cold weather golf. All right. We have, last week we recognized that Genevieve Nbuife was back in town, but I asked her if she could come up and just come up to the microphone and tell us a little bit about her experience. I think that would be great. I think this all fits in beautifully with our vocational theme this month. So, thanks.
Hi, everybody. What's that? Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me back.
Marilyn asked me to talk about what I've been doing since the last time I was here. A lot has happened. I graduated from College of Public Health, Kent State, with my Doctor of Philosophy in Epidemiology. And currently, I am doing my postdoc at Infectious Disease Department at the Internal Medicine, Yale School of Medicine at Yale. I got my Master of Public Health from University of Akron, like I said the last time, and I have my Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery from College of Medicine, Nnamdi Azikiwe in Nigeria. So this was my dissertation, still working on it, but what I did was to develop a comic book, an educational comic book on HPV vaccination. And my interest is in infectious diseases, and I became interested in HPV vaccination while I was taking one of my classes during my PhD. So HPV is a huge problem in the world, but more so in the United States, with over 80 million people currently affected. The bad news about HPV is that there's no way of telling who has it because it doesn't have symptoms, and usually by the time the symptoms develop, it's already too late. It causes diseases like genital warts and 7 types of cancers, and it affects both male and female. And of course, it's contacted through sexual intercourse, and it actually affects even kids. Actually, 45% of people that are affected are aged from 15 to 26. The good news is that HPV vaccine was approved in the United States in 2006 for boys and girls. In 2006, it was first approved for girls, and in 2009, it became approved for boys. HPV has been shown to be very safe and effective, and in countries that have good coverage, like other developed countries like Australia and Denmark, it's shown to reduce the incidence of HPV-related diseases drastically. In these countries, they have a coverage rate of about 80%. In the United States, the coverage rate is about 30-something%. And the reason is because of all the vaccination myths and all the anti-vaccination information that is more prominent than the good information. And that was where I came up with this idea. Why don't I develop an educational material that young people can read? So this material contains all the information about HPV that is necessary to make a decision. It talks about how it's contacted, how it can be prevented, and it talks about the HPV vaccine and how they can access the HPV vaccine. It's a 20-page comic book, and I evaluated it. I checked the effect on knowledge and their beliefs, and it showed that reading this comic book increased college students' knowledge of HPV and HPV vaccination by about 50%. It also improved their beliefs and improved their intention to get HPV vaccination. Luckily, this material has won 2 awards, the Hiram Graphic Medicine Award and the Addy Award in Akron, Ohio. So, and currently it's being adopted by the Ohio Department of Health. We are in the process of looking for grants to make sure that we continue to evaluate the effectiveness of this. We want to make sure that it gets to all high schools and colleges in Ohio and to help them make decisions about getting vaccinated and hopefully to increase HPV vaccination coverage in Ohio and hopefully the rest of the United States. So that's what I'm working on personally. You can flip. So, no. Forward. So these are the projects that I'm working at Yale. These are ongoing projects, active, and the other ones are the data collection. Either we're starting the grant application or we are completing the study. My PI is a specialist in infectious diseases, but mostly his research is on vaccines. He studies biology of vaccines as well as behavioral aspect of vaccines, trying to learn what influences people to accept vaccine. And that's how I ended up there. So this is one of the teams. This is the study that I'm currently working on. This will be in the United States. We are looking at how mixing patterns in workplaces would affect influenza transmission. So what we're doing is we're collecting social interaction data in companies, first of all, with two methods. One method, they're going to complete a contact diary over 2 24-hour periods. Within 24 hours, they'll tell us how many people they came in contact with. Was it a male or female? How old was the person? How long was the contact? And then the second part is they're going to be wearing an RFID device. It's like a proximity sensor device that will actually tell us the information about how many people they came in contact with and how long this contact was. And the reason we're collecting this data is we're looking at if there happens to be a flu pandemic, how fastly will it spread in a company like this? And if we institute some kind of measures like tell people when they are sick to work from home, how is that going to affect the spread of this disease? And if we're able to figure out that using some software magic, if we figure out that this is going to have a huge effect, which means preventing people from getting sick, saving money for the government, saving money for people, and saving people from the diseases, then that kind of information will influence policies and things like that. So this will be in the United States, and the next study is something similar, and will be in resource-poor countries. There are 4 countries involved in this one. There is Guatemala, Mozambique, India, and Pakistan. And both of them will be starting, it's already started, we're in the formative phase, doing focus group discussions, and the data collection proper will start in August. So I think these are basically my baby projects that I'm working on. The other ones are ongoing, and these are just the ones that I'm managing for my PI. He has like 30-something, almost 40 projects going on. So it's been quite busy since the last time I was here, and that's what I've been doing. Thank you for having me.
Genevieve, I was going to ask you, and I didn't get a chance to ask you this beforehand. By the way, are there any questions for Genevieve? If not, let me just throw it with one. Are you familiar with this new virus, I guess, that's gripping the news right now? Is it coronavirus? Any good advice for us about that right now?
It's been around for quite a while. It's not like it's a new virus.
Okay.
I guess maybe this one has some kind of new mutation. I don't know the details of it yet, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Best advice for us? Anything?
Oh, the advice, of course, continue the personal hygiene. The hand washing is very, very, it works.
Okay.
And of course, the social contact we just talked about. If somebody is sick, keep your distance, and that's about it.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you.
And get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated. All right. Thank you. All right. Good advice. All right, thanks, Genevieve. And by the way, I chuckled a little bit when I was listening to Genevieve's presentation. Of course, the theme this month for our speakers is vocational service. And we got together with the speakers committee recently, and we were signing out the themes for the upcoming months. One of them is education, which is an aspect of what Genevieve is doing very much right now. I saw that in her presentation, and then also all about health and health science and things like that. So we're going to be hearing from some speakers about that later on. But we get a little bit of a preview on that, little taste test of that today. All right, now for our featured speaker, could I ask Evan McCauley to come in and introduce our featured speaker today? Look at him trotting up here like a... Thanks, Evan.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians. All right, continuing our vocational service month, as Tom mentioned. Briefly, I just want to mention we are an awesome club, and Andrew, thank you for identifying that. We do a lot of awesome projects, and this month we have the delight to hear from a number of our Rotarians in terms of the impact that they're making in their vocations. So this morning, we get to continue that series, and Donna Kastner, founder of Retirepreneur, is going to be presenting to us. Having spent a good portion of her career as an event experience design consultant, Donna is now building a dynamic collaboration community for executives age 55 plus who are striving to make a smooth segue from full-time job to part-time consulting gig. With retirepreneur.com, Donna is championing a movement to help others design flexible and fulfilling encore careers. Donna has been a member of the Rotary Club of Hudson since March 10th, 2010. So she's coming up on her 10-year Rotary anniversary. I'd like to call Donna Kastner forward.
Good morning, Rotarians. It is an honor and a privilege to chat with you today, and today will be a chat as I share a little bit more. This wonderful Golden Gate Bridge, I spent the first week of 2020 in San Francisco, and it just felt like the right photo to showcase for the topic today. An amazing city. First, a little bit about the speaker. So here's my crazy tribe. 3 sons, millennials out in the world doing amazing things. A couple years ago, the very same night as the Rotary Gala, I became a Nona, and that's Leo. And Leo is amazing and the light of my life. I'm a transplanted New Yorker. I've been out in the Midwest for quite a while. We moved 9 times before we got here. So Bronx girl, Jersey girl, went to University of Dayton, go Flyers, met my husband there, a couple of New Yorkers meet in Dayton. Went in as a poli-sci major and left as a music education major because I was going to go to law school, and then I was like, nah. So I broke my father's heart. I think he called me about 6 times trying to talk me out of that pivot. First 5 years of my career was as a high school band director, 1 year in Dayton, 1 year in Detroit, and 3 years in Jersey. Loved it. It was awesome. And then I started doing the math. Well, first of all, so then we're in New Jersey. I'm pregnant with Chris. I take a 1-year sabbatical. I start doing the math, and it's going to be a little tricky to try to make this work in Jersey, and much of what I would make would go to childcare. So I did what any enterprising person on a 1-year sabbatical would do. I bought an IBM PC Junior. That's that little machine there on the bottom left. I later came to find out that less than 1% of Americans had personal computers in their household at that time. So I guess I'm a little forward-leaning when it comes to tech. But I convinced a publisher, a local book publisher, to take a chance on me, and I was typesetting book manuscripts from home, which was perfect, you know, a little baby, sleeping a couple hours, and I'm like typing while he's napping. And eventually I recruited other work-at-home moms, and I was making more in a part-time capacity than I was previously. So that was the first of several bootstrapping businesses. Through the years, that middle segment, I have this weird, crazy patchwork quilt that I could just spend too much time telling you about. But one other highlight in my crazy quilt of a career, so there were these 3 executives that were looking, or actually really high-level guys, looking to invest, $300,000 in an infomercial, and they thought it was the 90s, infomercials were big, we can make big money here, and they were interviewing different experts, and they weren't quite happy with who they were seeing, and my sister was involved in the project, and one night she told me about it, and I'm like, well, what about a work-at-home program? People want to do this. They're all constantly asking me. And then America's Work-at-Home Secrets was born, and there is me being interviewed by Allie Mills, the mom from the Wonder Years, as our celebrity spokesperson. Obviously, it did not take off, because I would not be standing here if it had. But it was an amazing experience. It was fun figuring all this stuff out. So I'm just telling you this because I am this crazy, curious, sure, I'll give it a shot kind of gal. And that takes me fast forward to today. I am, as I like to say, water skiing behind 2 boats. I have a consulting business in the trade show and conference space where I work on experience design, and it's never a dull moment, and I really enjoy what I do. But then there's this passionate side hustle project called Retirepreneur, which is actually now starting to move into the main focus for me. Retirepreneur helps people in their 50s and 60s who are too young to be done to figure out what's next, to make plans and get a jump start. I'm planning for an encore career chapter, and the people I meet, it's fascinating. monetizing retirepreneur has been a little bit tricky, trying to figure that out. But 2019, it happened. And the interesting thing was the monetization opportunity was right under my nose. I just didn't see it. It was the conferences and trade shows where people are already going, and then have them come in for a day early and do a workshop together and figure out what talent gaps are in their industry and how they might fulfill them. So never a dull moment. But today, the bridge, fostering richer dialogue across the generations, I think it's important to set some context and about what's happening as far as the workplace and how it's shifting in big ways. And then we can kind of get into this bridge that is being built. Thomas Friedman, in his book, Thank You for Being Late, An Optimist's Guide to Thriving in an Age of Accelerations. It's amazing how fast today's world is changing and how we are scrambling to adapt. This is one of his charts from a talk he did at the Aspen Action Forum. And essentially, technology is pushing change so much faster than our human ability to adapt. So, there's where we are right now. We're scrambling to learn and to keep up. But if you watch that delta, it's just going to continue to widen and widen. And, candidly, I think we're being reactive, and we need to start thinking about being proactive. Easier said than done. But I think much of what I'm proposing, especially with the bridge, helps put us in that place. I call out various thought leaders just more as people to follow if you want to understand this ever-changing workplace. And Heather McGowan is one. And yes, I had a chance when I was in San Francisco at the conference, I had a chance to introduce her and meet her. And she's fascinating. And she's putting out some incredible research and data and studying on the current workplace that is evolving in huge ways. So heathermcgowan.com, if you pay attention, she's got a constant flow of information. But this next chart is one that starts to show us how the workforce is changing. So once upon a time, the old paradigm was first you learn, then you earn, then you retire. And if you're lucky, there's a little bit of runway there in retirement. But guess what? The good news, people are living longer. Isn't that great? Longevity, we love it. But there's a lot of change going on, as we saw with Thomas Friedman's piece. So we've got this change thing that's going up and down and up and down, and so it's demanding not this segmented learning, but almost like a lifelong learning mindset. And as you're hiring, I mean, it is truly a skill to strive for, because the person you hire today, the scenario will change dramatically in several years. Will they be the person you need tomorrow? And those that are committed to learning will tend to be more agile and handle that. So let's talk about the workforce. One big thing happened in 2016. Can you guess? Any thoughts? I got a few different years for you, so get ready. This is interactive. What do we got, Rich? All right, well, that too. Forgot about that. As it relates to the workforce, millennials became the largest workforce segment in just record time. I mean, it's just like, boom, there they are. And there's a lot of chatter and conversation about millennials. Good and bad. I know that I am very invested in ageism, which sometimes I would say is the last unprotected ism. But ageism runs high and low, and I watch it happen for younger colleagues, and it's not good. And I think sometimes we're dismissive, and there are myths that perpetuate, and so I'm a myth buster. 2025, I won't have you guess that one, because that's when millennials actually will be 75% of today's workforce. So it's just as the shifts and changes happen with the other segments, now they're making a bigger and bigger bang in the workplace. We need to understand them. And by the way, all millennials don't act alike, nor do all boomers, but there are some tendencies. I think the generations are not absolutes, but there are clues. There are things we can see in shared life experiences that each generation has had that help us understand and adapt and tap into their best strengths. Now, what do you think's going to happen then? Millennials retire. Any guesses? It's a milestone moment in the United States. In 2034, according to the U.S. Census, There will be, it's the first time ever in U.S. history, there will be more people aged 65 and older than 18 and under. Just recently we passed the 5 and under, 65 and older. But this is huge. We are aging. You can't escape it. It happens to all of us. We wake up every day and we're a day older. Aging, it's a wonderful thing. We grow wiser, the wisdom, okay? I know, I am a promoter for aging. And if you look in beauty magazines and stuff, they realize there's language out there. You sit there and you buy anti-aging cream, anti-aging this, and they started realizing, gee, that's not really a good way to describe aging. Aging is a wonderful thing. You gain wisdom. You have encounters. So I think we're moving to this whole society where we really do lean in. And yes, I'm biased. I'm 62, so like I'm moving in there myself. So like, let's celebrate aging. That was good. That'll work. But I think when we have a population that is so substantial at that age, 65 and older, I think we need to start thinking about or maybe reframing perceptions. Who knows what this is? Yold. I'm yold, almost. I love this little new word here. So yold, the young old. Actually first coined by the Japanese to describe people in their 60s and 70s and even older, that this was the young old, that people were not only living longer, but they were taking better care of themselves, and they were more vibrant, and were, so it wasn't like, okay, it's off to the rocking chair. There were things, there were later chapters, the young old. It's what I aspire to. That's my team, the old. But what's interesting is we have the last 5-6 years of the boomers are marching towards 65, traditional retirement age. So the Economist magazine proposed that the 20s, we're in the roaring 20s, will be the decade of the old, and that you will watch people in this age segment take on new projects, new initiatives, whether they are income generating or passion projects that really make a difference. And I can tell you that every time I walk in this place, I'm inspired. That's the population in this room. It's like we're too young to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to happen, and we can pick up these projects and really advance them. Okay, so the bridge. Guess what? There's some generational friction going on out there, and there's a few root causes that are behind it. First of all, boomers, by and large, are staying longer in their jobs, okay? Yes? What about the Xers? So millennials, 80 to 2000, there's a 20-year span there. I mean, there are kids, so they're marching towards 40 people, like 38 down to 40 to higher 20s. Gen Z is now coming in the workplace. They are the brand new out of college. I had a slide in there, and I went, Donna, you have too many slides, and it actually had the age breakdowns. Dang it. Oh, well, last night it felt like a good idea, so I'm like, I got to pull slides. Yeah, so you've got Gen Z right out of college. You've got millennials that are kind of largely in their 30s. You've got Gen X, which, by the way, are sandwiched between two extremely vocal and large generations. And they're just like, will you guys please just knock it off? And then you have the boomers, which is 1964, born 1964 to 46 to 64. Does that give you the little bit of a gauge? And then there are the veterans. No, the veterans, the silent generation, and there's all different labels for the generations. Again, they're not absolutes, but it gives us some frame. Does that help? Okay. Hey, the 100-year life, it's what people are preparing for right now. There's incredible work going on at Stanford Center for Longevity. Society needs to change. Actually, they say that children born 2000 and later, the likelihood of a 100-year life is extremely high. But society is not yet prepared to catch that ball. So we need to start taking steps to prepare. So all good, but let's get to this generational friction, okay? So it's a little bit like the Hatfields and the McCoys sometimes in the workplace, okay? So you've got boomers that are watching the youngins come on board, and they're just like, oh boy. They expect everything. They just want a trophy and a recognition for everything they do. wah, 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 wah. It's crabby, the grouchy, get off my lawn guy. And I don't like that, and that's not a good way. I actually watch millennials as they came booming onto the workplace, and they've been there for a while now. I love it. They are questioning conventions. They are asking really smart questions, and we're so deep into it that we miss these things sometimes. So they're stirring things up. But conversely, with the boomers, they're just like, wow, they just don't understand technology. Move over, I can show you. So there's a little bit of wrestling back and forth. Who heard of this? Anyone? Raise your hand if you heard the OK Boomer explosion that happened like October of last year. So in a nutshell, and it's when it hit the New York Times Sunday column that I was like, oh, seriously, is this what we're talking about? So, okay, guess what? There's another social channel tool called TikTok that's out there. Don't even worry about it, but it's out there. And in TikTok, they had grouchy, get off my lawn guy on the right side representing the boomers, saying, whoa, these millennials are terrible, they're entitled, they're this, they don't understand the workplace, and he just is crabbing. And on the split screen on the other side is actually a Gen Z that's rolling his eyes, sighing heavily, and then at a certain point writes, okay, boomer, which was meant as a dismissive meme, like, and they went and talk to the hand. I think a lot of the discourse that happened, the fallout from this okay boomer thing, was yes, boomers have absolutely ruined our world, the housing market, the economy, climate, every single bad thing in the world is at the foot of boomers. They were responsible for that. There's a part of me that I'm watching going, yeah, we were kind of saying that when we came out of college too, but that's another day. I look at this and I think this world has no shortage of complex problems that need to be solved, and this squabbling back and forth between the generations is just so divisive. And then it's important to note that our brains are hardwired to want to be around like-minded people. It's kind of, want to be with my peeps. Look at our peeps here we have here this morning. Yet, when we lean into different-minded people, people of different perspectives, that's when the conversations grow so much richer. And it takes some intention, and it takes some even design. It's actually what I do for a living, is really trying to create these multi-generational conversations, but it's not easy. It's a lot easier when you're with people like yourself. It's shorthand, you move fast, you kind of have some shared experiences. But when you bring different-minded people together, that's when amazing breakthroughs happen. Oops. Now here's the good news. This tendency, so we want to be with our own people. I'm at events, by the way, and I'm watching at conferences. If you've been to, annual conferences, every industry has their association in their annual conference. They're marching, hey, the 30 under 30 and the 40 under 40, and I'm standing in the back of the room looking at colleagues my age going, what about us? Where did we go? There is almost an overcompensation in leaning in to engage the next generations, and it's smart. It makes sense. But all generations have different pieces to a much larger, complex puzzle, and I think what's happening is we're almost fostering more of this tribal piece. And quite frankly, at a conference, there are moments that are tribal when you're with your peeps, and there are moments when you're leaning into different perspectives, because why not? You're there to learn. You're there to experience things you don't experience in your day-to-day world. The same thing applies to solving big problems. We face many in society, in the workplace, and bringing the generations together to foster more constructive dialogue is where it's at. And the research is now showing us that, guess what? That diverse team, that diverse age team, actually is accomplishing more. They tend to outperform same-age teams. So that's an interesting dynamic, but we have to understand it, study it, plan for it. Today's workplace, it's interesting. We're emerging from a time of specialization, and specialization still matters. But, and I hate that they call it soft skills, but if you look at many of the skills that the workplace really needs today, they fall in the soft skills category, which makes you think, oh, they're less important. They're soft. They're not hard skills. They're soft. That top left one, learnability, again, the world's changing so fast, you just need to be leaning in hard on what these dynamics are. But this will give you a little bit of a glimpse. So, about 2 years ago, I was introduced to Joe Morgan, who was the former CEO at Standard Register. The head of the innovation department at University of Dayton thought the two of us he saw some common threads between both of us. I'm like, he's a Fortune 500 CEO. That doesn't happen in my world every day. Thank you for that introduction. And in fact, when Leo, remember I mentioned Leo was born and he was born in Nashville, and it happened to be where Joe was living, and guess what? So I headed down to meet my grandson and later to meet Joe Morgan for lunch. And the conversations that ensued were amazing. He is a fascinating man. There's so many different layers to who he is and what he's doing. What's interesting is he's in his kind of encore phase. So, when you're the CEO of Fortune 500 company, you're traveling in some big circles and you take a lot of things for granted. And at the time, and still, he's working in one of those co-working spaces now down in Nashville. And, if he moves somebody's whiteboard or something happens, or wait, you took my space. And he's like, it's wild what I'm encountering. It's a new dynamic. But he and I started to talk about, we had a fascination back and forth with, we were kind of oddballs a little bit in what we were doing in this next phase of our careers. And we tried to figure out where was the crossover. And essentially, it was around this multi-generational blending of sorts, that it wasn't happening in the workplace, that it was costing the workplace big time, that it was costing our society big time, and we needed to figure out how to counter that. So we secured a place down in Dayton last summer. We were very careful in curating an audience for this first conversation. It wasn't just like, Eventbrite, here's our big event, we'll see who we get. We wanted to bring together business leaders and civic leaders for some really candid conversations around why isn't this happening? Where are there obstacles? What steps can we take to foster richer dialogue? The conversations were fascinating. We had nearly 50 people in the room, and it was highly interactive. It wasn't just talking to them. It was back and forth, story sharing. And in essence, we landed on some high-level ideas. We met again, and then things got kind of crazy, but we're actually planning a whole program in 2020 for this group and others. The appetite for this conversation is huge. People acknowledge it's a problem, and for some reason we've had our head in the sand. And so being able to really dig into and figure out what's preventing these conversations from happening and what steps we can take to foster more of them is where we're heading. And quite frankly, it's new territory, and we're learning as we go. Who remembers this movie? Okay, The Intern, Robert De Niro, he was senior vice president of sales for a phone book company. How's that for a dinosaur business or getting disrupted? And so he retires and he finds he's not so happy in retirement. So he sees an ad for a senior intern position. And he comes in, and I bring this movie up because he models this tremendous role that I see. So back to Retirepreneur, I'm trying to coach the 50-plus crowd on how we need to show up for these conversations. And if you remember, the humility, he was quiet. He could have bragged, oh, you're sure. He didn't. He gained trust. They were making the younger colleagues were making fun of him, but in time, he was helping them out of jams. He was quietly coaching them. If you noticed when he coached them, it was very one-on-one, very, and helpful. And over time, as he gained their trust and the owner of the company's trust, his role expanded. I think that movie, it's lighthearted, but there's some really good lessons in that movie. So if I'm sparking anything here, our role in this multi-generational conversation needs to change. And remember the whole, so we've had a career ladder that we go up and up and up and up, and then we stop. We're staying longer right now, by the way, and that is causing some friction for our younger colleagues. It's causing something called promotion blockage. Because when we stay longer and we're not talking about what our plans are, now they're just kind of watching going, so when is Joe leaving? I kind of had my eyes on his office. So this promotion blockage is creating that friction, but I think when we show up, and I think what's going to happen is the ladder is going to become a graceful arc. So what will happen and what will ease promotion blockage and what will help boomers who are staying longer either because they want to or because they have to is new roles. Phased retirement is a solution for organizations. There are a number of companies that have successfully implemented programs, Herman Miller, Steelcase, where the program is offered to the whole population. You decide, you raise your hand and apply for the program, and you start to scale back your workload. So it's 100%, then it's 80%. And P.S., your compensation may shift a little bit too. But these are the new fields we're pioneering together. They're not perfect. There's a lot more conversations to happen, but I think I want to go back to this humble servant, this showing up and being helpful. That's who Robert De Niro was in this silly little movie, and I think that's who we are. We are no longer, I speak on behalf of boomers, we are no longer the smartest person in the room. Okay, wake up call. We have legacy knowledge. We have wisdom that can be huge, but we have to find it in proper proportion, and we need to listen as much as we talk, maybe more. Chip Conley, Wisdom at Work, is a phenomenal book, and he talks about this modern elder. And there are certain actual skills that, speed and memory. I'm 62. I'm here to tell you, they start to gradually decline, and I'm starting to see it, and it's like, okay, there's aging. However, there are new skills that intensify as we age, and one is connecting the dots. We can see patterns because of this past history that is rich. And there are times that I'm involved in conference calls when I can point something out. Might have taken me 7 minutes for my brain to catch up, but I can point something out, and it is rich and helpful. So I think we have to think about how we're showing up for these conversations, and a dose of humility will go very far. One last thought as far as technology. One thing I'm diving into that I would recommend for us here is video. So last year I had 20 trips, and that's about 10 too many. So I'm trying to dial down my travel, and so video is affording me more opportunities, more income opportunities using video. I'm interviewing, rather than flying to a conference and interviewing people on video, I'm doing it using Zoom. And yeah, I'm experimenting, and yes, there's sometimes I flip the camera on and I go, oh my, wait, hang on, move that up, let's push my chin up, and let's turn around, but it's coming. There's one other person in this room that's kicking it on video, and I happen to see some videos come across LinkedIn. Mr. Phil Tobin is a master. I'm watching his videos recently and going, whoa, so we need to talk, Phil. Way to go. So you had to expect it from a guy that learns how to play piano. You enjoyed his melodious piano coming in. He learned in his 60s, okay? So now he's conquering video. I think you're going to the moon next, right? And let me tell you something, the way we connect and share with others is changing in a big way. LinkedIn is that billboard for having conversations with others outside your normal circles. Hey, check out the guy I was interviewing. I just happened to walk into the studio one day and I've said, okay, yeah, let's talk. No, Rich Warfield, thank you for that. LinkedIn is a billboard to help show people who you are, how they might engage with you, and it's just not being used as well as it could. And it is an absolute avenue for connecting with people that can really enrich your lives. So if you're thinking about LinkedIn or that's a good place to start if you're looking to continue these conversations and be that trusted advisor that's helping. And with that, I guess I'll open up for questions.
I'll start out. So the people you talk to who are going into that second phase or third phase, what has been the most popular area that they've been entering into?
There's that big umbrella called consulting. I think the most successful people had some idea where they were heading. And so here's the hard thing about Retirepreneur. This is their journey and their story, so we can't sit there and, have we been a catalyst for people? Absolutely. But among many other things, I think the most successful Retirepreneurs had, they like what they do. They narrowed their focus to maybe a subset of what they did in their career where there is some demand, and they're getting involved in consulting projects. Often it's project work that I will tell you, I know with Hudson Job Search and the amazing work they're doing, I get more job offers when I'm not looking, when I'm a consultant, than I ever did when I was purposely looking for jobs. So today's climate does allow for side hustles. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it does tap that wisdom you've had from your whole career, but it winnows it down to the most important points.
Don, is there some aspect of your program, or let's put it this way, are there some people that you come across that really just want to do something completely different? You know, they're not really trying to leverage necessarily any technical experience from their 40-year career
Yep.
before retirement, but they want to do something almost like completely different.
Yes, and some are really succeeding in that realm. That's probably not the group that I lean into more.
Yeah.
And part of it is who I am. So I have a coach that has said, Donna, you're living your journey out loud, and people appreciate that. So I tend to gravitate more to people that are in that consulting B2B track.
Sure.
But some people are like, rocket scientists, and now they're doing some craft business or something, or so it runs the gamut. It's not the norm.
Yeah.
I also think there's a mindset. I think sometimes, so I told you the monetization kicked in 2019. Monetization is largely, now I'm being paid to speak, it took me a while to get to that point. Now I'm even bridging into some of the keynote areas, which is wonderful, and doing workshops. The one-on-one consulting, when you see me doing workshops at the library, that's a ministry. I see people that are trying to figure this out, and so I gather them when I can, to have these conversations, and we're a pointer channel. We have some of the answers. More often it's the people in the room, but the stories that come out in these conversations are fascinating. There is a population in Hudson that is wrestling hard with what's next, and I think we can do a better job of helping them.
And I know I plugged your program at the library once before. Do you do that on a regular basis, or what is it, a couple times a year?
Yeah, I was just down in Canton last weekend. I do it where I can, but it's hard because, so here's the thing, like the cobbler's kids have holes in their shoes, and I have to start to load balance for myself, or I won't see longevity. But I'm so passionate for this, so I'm trying to just balance it. But quite frankly, I took a red eye back from San Francisco and zipping down the next day to Canton, and I'm driving through snow going, okay, this was probably not my wisest move in the world. But you just try to help. So yes, I'm trying to foster these conversations, but ultimately, when they meet one another, that's where the conversations take off. So we're just trying to sow seeds so they can meet like-minded people in the community.
Hey, Donna. First of all, I enjoyed the time I spent with you on the show there, talking about taxes. I know it can be a little dry at times, but you made the show very entertaining. And please don't lose your passion for what you do, because I think that's your strongest attribute. You got to show, you got to exhibit the passion that you have. So keep it up, girl.
Thank you. By the way, so that's HCTV. I'm a Hudson resident and a Hudson business. I'm actually an S corporation, and I actually have an office. I moved out of my home 2 years ago, and that was a really good thing to do too. But the studio there is there. It's. I was getting ready to spend money on video, and I'm like, wait, free? Let's look at that first.
Okay.
Hey, Donna. I came to one of your sessions at the library. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and continue.
Thanks.
And you should all come and see her.
Oh.
Donna, you gave a great presentation. Last summer, I had a chance to spend some time up at the MIT Age Lab, and the gentleman, the doctor...
Joe Coughlin.
Yes, exactly. Joe started off his presentation with the idea he sees a day where people will live into their 130s. 3D printer of body organs, but literally talked about the 4 retirements. To your point, and the zigzag line, that the idea of that straight line career and then retirement is so yesterday.
Yep.
And with people living longer, the idea that there's a career, you'll retire from it, you'll go back and get retrained, re-educated, you'll have another career. It's very fascinating research. I don't know if you know Joe or read his book.
I've read his book. I love his book, and this social engagement. Diet and exercise help contribute to longevity. Social engagement contributes far more. And think of even what we do here with Rotary and the different ages. We've got service learning coming in our students. This is what creates vibrancy. This is what, when you leave a Rotary meeting and you go, oh, there's a new idea I haven't thought of. I'm going to need to read up on that and maybe explore it a bit further. So yes, I love the work they're doing. I can barely keep up, but I'm reading a lot of what's coming out there. And then Chautauqua had a whole series with him. And Laura Carstensen, sorry, that blue bug's been getting around.
I'm Ms. Kastner. Do you see any major culture shifts happening as the boomers kind of leave those top level leadership positions in the workplace and they get taken over by the less, you put it like outspoken Gen Xers?
So, yeah, I think one thing that's starting to evolve as boomers exit is this concept of mutual mentorship. So it's not the boomer pontificating from on high. Let me tell you how business is done. Get your nose out of your device. We need to have a conversation. No, it's not that. It's generations mentoring each other. So younger generations have high DQ, digital intelligence, thank you. And older generations tend to have a better handle on EQ, emotional intelligence, and some of the management pieces. So to your point, I think you're going to see more of these modern elders moving into mentorship roles, but it's mutual. They're mentoring and being mentored at the same time, and I think that makes for a richer conversation. Does that answer your question a bit?
Yeah, we have one last question over here. For you? Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Donna, thank you so much. Donna, you will be available to, we all know where to find you to ask you more questions, so thank you so much. That was really great today, beautifully in line with our theme for the month, once again, vocational service. I think great words to consider there. Hey, I wanted to, just before we get to Rotobuck, I wanted to mark the passing of a great Hudsonite this week. He was not a member of this club, but Dick Schultz, many of you might know, was a longtime Hudson resident. I was fortunate to get to know Dick many years ago when I went to Miami University and joined Phi Delta Theta fraternity. Dick had followed, I was following Dick's footsteps when he graduated in 1952, and that started a friendship that I had with him over the years. And what really blossomed, let's say, over the last 10 years or so, there's one quote from his obituary. His love of sports led him to be a mentor to many young people. He spent many seasons sitting in the stands and cheering for his young friends who competed for Hudson High School and Western Reserve Academy. Dick had many hobbies and pastimes, especially writing letters and sending cards to friends and student athletes, encouraging and congratulating them for their achievements. Dick was a loving and positive man who enjoyed people of all ages. He is cherished for his many friends and made everyone feel special. Those of you who have been with the club for a few years, who does that remind you of? Jimmy Sutphin. This guy was like, he could have been Jimmy's brother. I mean, this guy just made you feel good all the time. And he had such kindness and warmth for everyone, from students to all ages. Just a wonderful person. We're poor that he's gone now. There will be, I think, I think they're going to be accepting visitors from 3 to 7 on Thursday at St. Mary's, and then I think there's going to be a burial at St. Mary's on Friday at 10:30 a.m. For those of you who know him, who knew Dick, please represent and say hello to the family. All right, Rotobuck. Let's move on to that. All right. May I ask our guests to take a ticket? You guys do this, right? Oh, yeah. All right, good. All right. This week, our Rotobuck payout is $11. The last 4 digits are 2842. 2842. 3, 2, 1. Oh, wow. How about that? Bill, come on up here. Hard time finding the ticket, right? Which pocket you left? I have to check them all 3 or 4 times. All right. Here's your $11, and we are going to pick a marble for $203 here. The grand prize, please confirm there's a black marble in there? There is a black marble. All right. Go for it. Oh, I'm sorry. Not this week. Please try again next week. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Any other business we have for this week? I believe that's it. So thank you all. Please go out there and do the things that make us proud to be Rotarians, okay? Thank you. Have a good meeting, or good week.